getting quiet when people are speaking. Let's say you have a speaker off our bring in or someone's coming to talk, and girls are not quiet. Like it's an issue of respect. Girls don't take personal responsibility for respecting the person who's standing there. There's just the issue you're talking about.
So the question is, when a high school girl is sitting down, or a group of high school girls, and the speaker walks in, and they're
exactly they're doing before the speaker walks in.
Well, what happened today is one of the Shluchos said, she's like, I'm embarrassed to get a speaker because like the girls are going to talk straight through it. So we're looking for ways to inculcate respect into 634 teenagers. So many girls are in high school. That was something on some of our minds.
So the speaker speaking to 634 kids.
Sometimes
by grade. Sometimes one by grade.
Sometimes the small.
Let me just ask you a question. Who says it's a good idea to have a speaker speak to 634 kids when they're not listening? Maybe, in other words, maybe that's like an archaic form of teaching, and maybe it's not necessarily a good idea. Could that be? Like, why is it important to listen to 634 kids?
It's an issue also in their individual classes when it's just a class of 25 kids and they talk straight through with the teacher, or if it's on a grade level, 150 girls and they also talk straight through.
Or we had a Pennsylvania and there were like 25, 30 girls. I'm saying.
So I think part of the problem, what you're saying is that teenagers are not, if they're not interested, whereas once upon a time there'll be a little measure of respect, today there isn't. And one of the reasons probably is it's like a certain culture. Think about it. When I have this thing in front of me now, so if you're boring, I'm okay. You do whatever you want, right? And if you take away my phone, and I'm not officially out to look at the phone, it doesn't take away my culture. The phone is not the problem. The phone created a certain way of thinking that allows me to tune out and go a different zone when you want to talk, right? So, I mean, look, I teach, right? And granted, I teach in seminary Beis. And I'm assuming that most people who read seminary Beis are interested. And by that time, and even then it's not perfect. But I also started teaching a little bit just to check it out, what it's like 11th and 12th grade in one of the Beis Yaakos. And it's an interesting thing. Like you get 60 girls in a class, and most of them are listening, but there's like a group of like 5 who are at the back who are talking straight through, like from beginning to end. And I use all my teaching skills. Lower your voice, like you talk quietly, and then they're like, "Oh, hi, someone there." Like, why is the girl so quiet suddenly? But I just think that maybe we can, like, since you guys are not the teachers, right? Maybe we can address the core issue. Like, if they're not interested and they need to be excited by something else, maybe we want to address that. Like, for example, if I would decide to talk right now, right, I may or may not hit the point. And maybe you'll be interested, maybe not. But if I ask you to ask me the question, then I know one thing for sure. The person who asked the question, I'm answering that person. So that person's going to be listening. Correct? Why are you listening? Because I'm answering your question. Now you might think I didn't give a good answer, that could be. But most likely you're not going to chat right through now. So if you get one of these kids and you have them ask a question, or you address the thing that's relevant to them, most relevant to them, maybe they'll listen. And who says that can necessarily be done in large groups? I don't know.
That would be more of a one-on-one.
What?
That would be more of a one-on-one.
One-on-one or one on a few. Look, we have a group over here, right? Let's make an assumption that everyone in this group is doing a similar thing. So if there's a little over 1 million here, but everyone's involved in the same general niche, right? So the questions are going to be pretty similar to all of you. And therefore, most likely a little more interesting. So why don't we, instead of saying that, oh, the kids are not interested, why don't we address the underlying issue of why they're not interested? And let's ask them, what do you want to hear? Now, it's not always that easy to say, what do you want to hear? Sure, I'll tell you exactly what I want to hear. You may have to work very hard to actually identify what they want to hear, right? But what if you did? What if you stepped down and actually understood their question. That's why I don't think it's a good idea to take 634 girls and lecture to them. Why is that a good idea? What does that makes you feel good? Because you spoke to a huge crowd. So what? Right? Unless you want to get a speaker who tells jokes. And even then, but jokes people like. But what if you got small focus groups and the speaker came and actually addressed the issues? What if you had them really able to open up? Now, what would it take? You know who the problem with is now. It's our problem. How do I give you the full sense that I'm not going to judge you and I'm going to give you the answers to what you need? And if I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know. I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to work hard to get the answer. So that's part one, right? Part two is, what is it with respect? Like, can we create respect today? So what do you think? Can we? What? It's what?
It has to be.
Right. I think part of it is that when you realize your own humanness, teenagers are very quick to knock off everybody else because you don't need to be something yourself. Once you get to start realizing in life that you also need to be something, like what are you? Then maybe you start realizing that not everyone's so small like you thought they are. But I think it's a long process, it's a long haul of engendering respect. So I'm not saying we shouldn't work on getting just, hey, give the person human respect, right? Give human respect. But at the same time, I think we might need to look at answering questions, meaning being more interesting and engaging. Maybe it calls upon us as educators to work harder. Part one. Since these are the educators here who are asking questions, right? So if it's the teens asking questions, maybe it's a different answer. But I think that's the response.
So if you have to make a program based on the questions that are foremost in girls' minds, what do you think that would be? What are the foremost questions in girls' minds?
Can I back it up a little bit? Sometimes the program is not about sometimes you're bringing a speaker for a specific purpose, whether it's the Yom Pagra that has the Yom Pagra has a certain message. The questions that the girls are usually having is not about the Yom Pagra. Are we saying cancel the Yom Pagra? Because not necessarily are all the kids interested in those what that's
You're saying you're making a public assembly.
No, not a public assembly. I'm saying even in smaller group settings, right? A shlucha of the 9th grade is for Mrs. Kisley, makes it for bringing that night. There was a whole school program that happened during the day, beautiful, etc. And that night she's having it for bringing with her grade. I'll be honest, I'm not a shlucha. I was a shlucha 4 years ago. Nothing's changed in that sense of like, there's a certain message that it's Kisley carries or your shot carries, and from what I'm understanding, is saying is that we shouldn't bring speakers for specifically what we want. We should find out what the kids want, but not necessarily what the kids want is what you're making it for bringing, particularly at that program.
Maybe we should get with the program and do that more. Who says we should just make, the calendar date says something, therefore we should celebrate the calendar date just because the calendar date says something? Maybe when the calendar date says something, it's saying to you, pick yourself up and understand what this day is, right? Like maybe it's a demand on us to get into a deeper state of understanding. Like the only thing we do things by rote. We do Chasidische Yomim Tovim by rote. Oh, it's now Yutas Kislev on the calendar. What should we do? You know what's fascinating, by the way? Do you know?
Going after ice cream. I don't want your wife to feel pressure to start sending you.
You can tell her direct.
That time has to happen. We're at a crazy time.
You know that the David HaMelech in Tehillim, he tells you when to blow shofar. So he says, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'ketz aliyim chageinu. And then you're supposed to darshan that Tiku b'chodesh shofar means when should you blow the shofar? B'chodesh. What's b'chodesh? B'ketz aliyim chageinu. So Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh. Which Rosh Chodesh? When the moon is hiding. So he said, which holiday falls out when the moon is hiding? And the answer is, must be Rosh Hashanah, because it's the only day that falls out on that day. And I always wondered, and why don't you just say Tiku Shofar on the first day of Tishrei? See, why don't we say Tiku on which day? And I think you know, right? You know what the answer is? He did say which day. It's like, what do you want me to say? A date on the calendar? Because the calendar turned another day, that's why you should blow shofar? No, he was telling you the experience when you feel the chidush, as explained at length in Chassidus, right? When you feel a brand new year, a brand new unit being created, that's when you blow the shofar. That's when you connect. So it's like, and we just have it a day on the calendar because we don't know how to work otherwise. So, you know, Shabbos comes in when you feel Shabbos, but we don't feel Shabbos. So it's like a feeling. And maybe we want to go back to that a little bit, somewhat, like a tiny little drop, right? Maybe instead of saying the Yom Tov is here, it's this Yom Tov coming up. Maybe we want to actually feel, what is this Yom Tov? And then why is it relevant to you? Why should you celebrate this? Don't tell me just because I have to. A thought. Feel free to argue, by the way.
Another example, we just started a podcast. We're getting like a bunch of different speakers, a bunch of different topics, and we give the girls a week in advance to just ask any questions that they want.
Nice.
So first of all, there are very, very few questions that come in. It's like we put it in their face, and every single, obviously we do more, but I'm saying it's put in their face. We go into classes and all that. First of all, the girls are not asking questions, and second of all, the girls who do ask questions are not asking the questions that need to be answered. Obviously, those questions need to be answered, but the questions that we're asking are. So
you're asking questions because you want to make a podcast, and
no, the podcast idea came from, like, it was coming from the girls. Like, the girls wanted it.
Right.
Now we want to bring relevant topics, so we've had very diverse topics.
And they don't want to ask the question.
And then we want them to ask questions to whoever is coming. So we tell them who's coming this week.
Right.
And then ask your questions.
Interesting. And they don't want to ask.
Very few people ask.
Did you ask them why they don't want to ask?
Yes.
What'd they say?
Correct, how many kids so far?
Last week was 8.
I think the questions come to you one-on-one directly while you're learning with them more than anything else.
Right.
It's organic. It's like, right, the questions that I sent you, let's say Esther's learning, like when you're talking and you get to know them, they spill what's on their mind. How do you even know there's a God? Or what's wrong? You know, I don't know how open I can be, just keep running around, but like I think the gender and some gender thing is on a lot of girls' minds, right? Especially certain ladies. I think
Okay, so let's address that. 1 second. So just on that one, what you might have established. Oh, just 1 second, just to finish that point before you move on. What you might have established is that a podcast may not be the correct necessarily format.
Sorry.
A podcast may not be the appropriate platform that they're
No, I'm
looking
saying
for.
that was one example, and many girls learn from it, and it's a great initiative, and it's open to so many people. I'm not saying specifically that, but it's just one example where we do want the girls to ask.
Isn't it interesting that, like, once upon a time, you know, people used to have like a show. So I have my podcast, I have my show, I have my whatever, like a column in the newspaper and whatever, right? In a way, like today, that doesn't exist at all, because everybody has got a column and a podcast and a YouTube channel and whatever. So it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's like, okay, so you have your channel and so nothing. So just like in a certain sense, you know, like it's like people like today the handwritten note, which means that you actually didn't use technology, because that proves you actually care. In a certain sense, all these things, you make a podcast, you make whatever. Maybe there's like you're saying, maybe there's another way to get to them. But just asking the question whenever it comes up, and you ask, and you just get to know them, and you really care about them, not about the podcast.
That goes back to what I said before. It needs to be a one-on-one situation.
Right.
Even if you already have 2 or 3 girls, it's not. You don't have the same feeling.
Sometimes, right? Correct. Not easy, because it's like you want to make a podcast, and you know. Anyway, okay, yeah. So let's go back to the gender issue.
The framework of a system that isn't made for what the girls actually need.
It's made for 634 girls, not for one-on-one, because there's so many humans. Is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Well, my thoughts.
I'm saying
individual.
I'm going to tell you my little secret that don't tell anyone. I think schools are weapons of mass instruction. That's just a general question. I don't, yeah. I think it's an issue which you might have to deal with, because that's the framework which you have.
I'm saying we always get back to the same thing. Like, we know it would be ideal. It would be ideal for me to do this with every single girl in my grade, and but I think the more relevant would be to try to figure out what's the best solution within the framework that we have because I'm not changing the school. And I'm not getting a teacher for each student right now. Even if I did, that would be beautiful.
So you're saying, how do I go about and change the framework of a school when there is a framework?
I'm saying, what's the best that I can do in this situation that I'm in?
What's the best I can do?
Like, because I know what I think would be ideal, but
What do you think would be ideal?
a lot of things. I'm saying
I can
the
tell
way
you
this, like the amount
Triple the
of
amount of
girls,
sulfites?
like we need
No.
tons more of us, and like even just we're 2 girls to reach 160 girls in our grade, whatever. It just doesn't matter now, like all the things because it's not happening. But I'm saying, I think a more relevant question would be what's the best that we can do in the given situation, which is that there's me and another girl.
Can I make a little observation, maybe, perhaps?
Definitely.
The best way to influence someone else is a very strange, counterintuitive way. But the answer is by not trying. The more you try influence someone, the more they repel. Like, don't try influence me. Tell me what to do. And almost like to influence someone, what you want to do maybe is not try. And then they come after you. It's like an interesting kind of dynamic, right? And could be that one of the
Thanks. Don't worry. We're going to ice cream afterwards. He's giving us your time in your house. Don't worry.
maybe like one of the fundamental points over here is that people, especially today, when there's so much fakeness all over, everything's fake. Like, what's real? Give me something real. Give me something authentic. Everything you see is fake. Like, social media has taken everything and made it fake. Like, even real moments, the most, like people asking me the question a few times. I've had the question, can we take the video of the Shabbos dancing, because the goy took a video, and now we have a video of the Shabbos dancing, and then can we let it out? It wasn't, it was just a goy took it. What's the answer? What? Is there anything wrong with a goy filming, like Jews davening on Shabbos or dancing on Yom Kippur or Ne'ilah or something like that? Do you know what's wrong? What's wrong is that
It's not false.
what?
It's not like false.
You'll never capture the experience of Shabbos. And what's wrong is that you've just destroyed the very essence of Shabbos or Ne'ilah or whatever you're doing. You just destroyed it. You ruined it. Because now you're thinking to yourself, is there a guy filming next time you do it? Will someone see this? And there goes the sanctity of the soul. What's missing today, and this is most likely, by the way, the answer to everyone's question nowadays. What's missing is a sense of authenticity, sanctity, truth, genuineness, real. Because I'm never here. I'm always trying to make a show. So you'll never get the real answer of who I am, right? Isn't that sad? Like Shabbos, if it's Shabbos, and if it's really Shabbos, and there's just like no phones, no filming, no videos, that would be like amazing. But keep it that way. Keep it real, right? Like, what happens if you keep it real? You'll feel the light. And I think that maybe that's the only thing we need to work on.
100%, but that still won't reach. Meaning you could do that, and I happen to agree with what you're saying. And I've seen it and I've experienced it, but I don't think that's possible to accomplish in a large group. Meaning, yes, you could see a real person, but you're not reaching.
Hold on. Let me just ask you a question first, and don't answer this. But do you yourself have anxieties? Do you sometimes get down? Do you yourself sometimes wonder and ponder at night the existence and the purpose of life and why we're here and what's the point? And do you sometimes wonder as one SEM girl asked me recently, and I think it's indicative of our generation. Very, very serious girl. She's like from top quality, everything. She says, all I want, she told me this privately afterwards, after the class. She said, all I want is to be dead. And my parents tell me, what's up with that? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be mashpia until you solve your own problems. But I'm saying, can we at least recognize that the problem is not them, but us? That the reason we can't be what?
That is a problem. Now that we are here not in a way to patch up the problem, what could we do in a broken problem? Like, how can we make it the best fix? Because in order to change the framework that we're working in, you're talking about a massive change. Talking about that every single teacher that walks into a classroom needs to care about every single student and not 2 shluchos per grade.
I think every single teacher walks in the classroom, or every single one seated of us, not you, me also, seated around this table, in order to be influencing anybody else, needs to not try to influence anyone else, needs to just try one thing. And that is to make themselves happy, secure, and connected. And I will guarantee you, without a shred of a doubt, that if you feel the light, then what does it say? Light attracts. What does that mean, that light attracts? All those things, those anxieties, etc., those are darkness. So the only question should be, how do I find my own light? How do I shine my own light? Or how do I undarken my own darkness is probably the better way to do so. Because I don't think you need to do anything afterwards. Like, I think everybody's just going to be coming to you.
So then you don't reach them. You're not practically going to have or be able to reach, if you're talking 2 people per 150 girls, even if you find a lane.
What do you think all those girls want from you?
Again, but you're not reaching all the girls.
What does it mean to reach someone? What does that mean to reach someone?
For them not to even be able to see that you have light. Or not even be interested, or walk by, see light, and not, like, they don't want, you're not reaching everyone.
Not everyone will be influencing everyone. This is true. Some people will influence some people. Not everyone's going to be influencing, correct. But if you want to be a coach, basically you're being coaches, right? What you guys are doing is being coaching, right? You can't coach anybody when the other person feels that you're not genuine yourself. Now, you know how coaching works nowadays? The art of modern technology with social media, etc. Well, for all its negativity, has a lot of positivity. And one of the most incredible things in modern technology is that when you go on YouTube, the way to succeed on YouTube is not by talking and preaching, and I am going to deliver the lecture of the year, and I'm going to inform you about the future of the Jewish people. Have you ever opened a YouTube that talks like that? You know what you do? You're like, delete. In 2 seconds, delete, right? True or not? When you open it up, you know how when you open it up? When the person is talking to you. Most often, they're talking one-on-one, like this. The tone of voice, the feeling is more of, you care about me, right? So actually, and then, hey, 1 million people can watch what one person spoke to one other person. That's the positive side of modern technology. You don't need to talk to all 100 students of yours. You need to talk to one. If you spoke to one and you got through to one, that one will get a friend and another friend and another friend. And guess what? That one will be lit up themselves and will go light the next person and the next person. And chinuch is hard work. Hard work. Chinuch ain't easy. Lecturing is easy. It's simple. You give a lecture and then you sei gesund, have a good one. And the person may be affected by it. We give lectures, right? Hoping someone's going to be affected. But a real way to affect someone is to work with them for a long period of time. But there is no way to coach unless you work on yourself. Maybe we should ask that question.
Step 2.
Which is?
Meaning, like, step 1 is just work on yourself and who you are is going to come out.
Right.
Meaning, then it also needs, like, it doesn't sound like that.
It's more like nafshi yotza bedabri. When you speak, you know what they say? What you say, what you are screams at me so loud that I can't hear what you say. Or nafshi yotza bedabri. Nafshi yotza bedabri.
Oh, okay.
What?
Let's make sure we get to specific questions the girls ask.
Okay, go ahead. Jump ahead.
We could do
If we
that.
have already ones that we're already sending, we can start with that.
Go ahead.
No, like let's say there's certain questions that girls will ask that are like basics, but like what do I tell? Like let's say if a girl asks me,
Should I be a
why
girl?
can't- No, okay, yeah.
That's
Start
one.
with that. Or why can't I talk to boys? Like I could tell you a million reasons
That's
why
the
I don't
opposite
think
question.
you should, but why can't I talk to boys? What?
Right.
Different question.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Let's go.
But
Can we-
yeah,
you know what?
please start
I
with
want to take 5 questions. Can we take 5 topics like that?
that. No.
You just said,
Basic
why can't I talk to
questions,
boys?
just
Yeah, go. Knock it out. 5 questions. Why can't I talk to boys?
Okay.
I'm a teenager. Why can't I talk to
Why
boys?
should I be religious?
Why should I be religious? Number 2. Yeah. 3 more. Why should I be a girl? No, not so much.
No, yeah. That's
How do I know if I
another
believe
one.
in Hashem?
How do I know if I believe in Hashem?
Like why should I believe
Just
in
remember the
Hashem?
question. I want to go through them in a second. And when you ask the question, remember it. I already forgot the list.
Did you write it?
I
Mushka,
suffer through so much. Why should I believe? Like Hashem doesn't do good to me. Why should I believe in him?
Or brings
Why should I
more
believe in
pain
Hashem?
to
Okay.
believe in Hashem than to not. So
Okay, all the same
Same
question. It
question.
brings you more
I
pain to
feel
believe in
like
Hashem
they
than to
all come
not.
from an emotional place.
Exactly. What I want to point out is that all the questions are the same. Hold on, we had 3 questions, right? Why should I believe in Hashem? Why should I not talk to boys? And
So I'm specifically.
why should I be
asking
religious?
for
Want to take
like-
2 more? 2 more.
Can I just
Yeah.
clarify? In every single situation, there is obviously the whole question is who's asking it and where it's coming from and the
Correct.
emotions behind it. But I want to know if you could give us specific, like
Short and
take
to the point.
all the emotions and the history and background out of it. If it's possible to give like just like let's say if I said why can't I talk to boys, you just tell me like a black clear cut answer without the person involved. Because sometimes like
Why should I not talk to boys?
Simple. Yeah, or like why should I be? I don't know.
Just can I ask you the question?
Yeah.
What do you think? What does your heart tell you? Why should a teen girl not talk to boys?
I could give you whatever answer I'm giving you, but that doesn't matter.
Or what do you think is the answer?
What do
What's
I
the,
think is the
yeah.
answer? I don't know. Depends where I'm coming from, but usually I think it's just that it's worse for them.
Le-
The
le-
Torah tells you not to. That's what.
Okay, let me try the other way. Why should you talk to boys? What's wrong?
The reasons that they'll say I don't.
And what are the reasons?
True.
Why do you want to talk to boys?
It's fun. It makes you feel good. It's entertaining. I don't know.
Right.
Anything. But
Let's take Attention and makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Right.
Boys are more
Attention makes
fun,
you feel-
smarter.
Yeah. Or it's
Also,
just
a lot
someone
of
who cares, who's into
Right.
me. Someone who's, like,
Now, just to clarify, the question of why should you not talk to boys?
Jolie, you want to add something to this?
Yeah, a lot of them are coming from mixed schools, so they're like the enemies grew up. The enemies were in class with them until like 6th, 7th grade. So like it's just a continued relationship.
Right. So I definitely think it's not. It could be different for, there's no like prohibition in saying hello, right, from a girl to a boy. I think it's more like, and it depends who you are and what it's about. So yeah, you do need to take that into consideration as to who you're talking to, into what. But I think it's more the question of, let's take it to its extreme, right? What's wrong with having a friend who's a boy? How about that? And then you can replicate that for whatever your case is with how religious or from the person is, right? What's wrong with a girl having a boy as a good friend? So nice. Like, why not? Right? Can we establish that's the question? Okay. So the simple answer is, why would a girl want a boy as a friend? Meaning,
she's missing something.
it actually doesn't make sense because a boy thinks the opposite of you. Right? Girls think one way and boys think the other way. So it's interesting. Like, what's wrong with a girl having a girl? Is it okay for a girl to have a girl as a friend? Why is that okay? Because you need a friend. What does a friend do for you? Let's talk about friends. Let's not talk about girls or boys. Let's talk about friends. I think the issue is, what's a friend? Do you know what a friend is today? It's a nothing. You friend someone. The word friend is so misused when the person saying, what's wrong with having a boy as a friend? I don't know what is wrong. I got 4,800 friends on Facebook. So you're telling me there's something wrong with a boy as a friend. Why? Because he pressed like on my thing? Maybe the question is, what's a friend? Do you get how the friend word has been misused? Isn't that the case? Right? Maybe you want to know what is friendship. Because what's wrong with a Facebook click of a friend is that it's soulless. It's just absolutely no neshama, no soul whatsoever. He doesn't care about you, you don't care about him, and that's it. And you just click, friend you. And then you're like, unfriend.
What about real friendship? What about someone that I actually build a relationship with?
Okay, so what does it mean to build? Let's talk about that. Yes. How many friends, first of all, can you build a relationship with?
How many?
Yeah.
It's like, not so many.
Very, very few. Because you only have one soul, and it's very limited in its capacity. How many friends can you in a neshama talk to? Not how many people can you say good morning to? Hey, everyone, how's it going? Great, lol. You can say that to whoever you want. But you can't say to whoever you want. You can't talk to them about what's really going on in your life. How many people can you do that with? How many people do you want to do that with? It's like you're limited because your neshama is a neshama. It's not a thing. It's your soul. It's your inner experience. And you just can't share that with everybody. Right? So when you share it with someone, it's sacred, it's intimate, it lets someone into a very deep space in your life. It really does. So now what's the problem with having a member of the opposite gender as a friend? The problem is that the answer is like this. If you want to have a friend who's a boy, what most people consider a friend, when you say you shouldn't have friends as boys, they don't know what you're talking about. Why shouldn't you have a boy click on your thing? Well, because when he clicked on your friend, he meant everything opposite of what you meant. That may be the reason. But maybe the issue is let's talk about what friends are. And if we talk about what friends are people who share intimacy with each other. And a friend understands deep in your soul what's going on.
So why can I do that?
What?
No, that would work.
Because the fact of life is, right, that when you touch someone, let's talk about that. What happens when you touch someone? Something happens. Right? Something happens. When you touch, if you just shake a hand or put your hand on someone, on a friend, on a girl, another girl, what's going to happen? It's going to be a bond, right? Some kind of like fire ignites. Imagine do that with a member of the opposite gender, with a boy. What's going to happen? It's going to be anything but a soul connection. It's going to be a very physical feeling that's going to go through. The energy is going to change totally. And if you don't touch and you just talk, well, you're just trying to get there, right? So you're talking, and at some point, if he's thinking something and you're thinking something and the thoughts are very different, what do you think is going to happen, right? You got to like delve into the difference between boys and girls and what happens when one soul opens to another. So if you want to make a friendship, you can't have a friendship with someone who's thinking the opposite thoughts about you when you're there, how attractive you are. Doesn't go. There's no friendship. Right? That's the, in other words, there's a whole, it's not working. The whole thing isn't happening in the first place. That's the problem. Now, when you want to build a friendship, I mean, tell you the truth, my best friend is a girl, actually. And it's amazing. It really is amazing. Because, yeah, you're physically connected and therefore emotionally connected. I don't know if there's a better way to have a best friend. It's very, very, very powerful. But it only works in the context of a marriage. It doesn't work in other contexts. And I think like in a question like this, right, what's the point is to understand the questioner. So I just gave you the brief answer, right? This, when you try to talk to someone in actual real life, I'm not sure it's going to be so
Straightforward.
so straightforward, right? You can have a lot of ups and downs, but that's the answer. So you might want to understand them and appreciate and work with them. And if a girl already has a relationship with a boy, she's going to fight you. She's going to say, no, it's not true. By me, it doesn't work that way. No, it's not true. And you might have to wait for the next few meetings. And at some point, she'll discover that. And that is true. How do I know it's true? Not because I made it up, because the Torah says so. Yes, correct.
But this is assuming that, but let's say someone wants to have a boyfriend, meaning like they don't just want to be friends. They want more than that.
Right.
And they're asking what's wrong with that.
Right. So you realize how all these questions are boiling down to the same point. Why do you want a boyfriend? Why do you need a boyfriend? And you'll discover that there's a void.
Right.
A void inside the soul.
So why can't they fill it with that? That's what they're asking.
With a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because the boy is not filling your soul. He's filling his desire, not your soul.
But that's not the experience.
It's what?
That's not what this person.
Okay, yeah. So, like, she's not feeling her soul either. I'm saying like
That's why.
they're both not feeling their souls.
Exactly. And that's why chinuch is hard work. Because you can't just say it. You want to get a person to feel their soul. That's why I was saying before, it's all about the coach. You being in touch with yourself. Because at the end of the day, what everybody will gravitate to is someone who's real. It doesn't make a difference what you say. If they sense that when you say it, that you genuinely care about them, they will gravitate to you. The only way to genuinely care about someone else and listen to them is when you don't have the issues yourself. Or at least
Okay, we're putting.
or at least 1 second, or at least not that, or at least you're able to feel that Hashem loves me even with my flaws. Okay, I ain't perfect, but Hashem still loves me. You don't need to be perfect to earn Hashem's love. How can I help you? Have you ever had a conversation with someone or let me ask the other way around. Have you ever asked someone a question and sensed they're not really answering you? They're really just giving a biased answer of what's going on in their lives. Have you ever talked to someone and you say they're not listening to you? Like they're trying to formulate the answer in the middle of a question. And have you ever talked to someone who's just plugged in and connected and just listens? Did you realize if you talk to someone like that, they don't need to even say anything. They don't need to explain anything. Just to be able to talk to someone like that and they listen to you, already answered your question. There's no greater skill than listening. And the only way to listen is if you feel the love of Hashem in your life. And this is what life is about. It's hard work. It's not easy. It's so tough. Because what you want to work on is yourself and your connection to Hashem and feeling that Hashem loves me. I ain't perfect. Nope. Hashem loves me. And it's amazing to be loved by Hashem. You don't need to be perfect to love by Hashem. The more you feel that, the more you're able to reach out to others. That's the core. Behind everything. What were the other questions we had there? There was about the belief. What were you saying? What was the question about belief? What?
Be religious or
Why should I be religious?
I can also add to that one and say, like, why am I greater? Like, prove to me I have an neshama, and why am I any greater than anyone else? Like, why am I greater than a guy? They're the same.
Right.
And there was the gender issue that came up.
1 sec. So step by step. Why should I be religious first? Or why should I believe in Hashem with all the painful things I've gone through, etc.?
I don't feel it. I don't see it. I could go through proofs. Like the girl could give me back all the proofs. And she could say Hashem's here, but she doesn't actually feel it.
Right.
She doesn't believe in it.
Right.
Who says Hashem's good? Like what?
Right. You know what all those questions are saying? They're saying, let me rephrase them, right? How do I feel Hashem in my life? I really want to feel him. I don't want to just say, like, it's Yutas Kislev and it's, Hanukkah on the calendar, so now I've got to celebrate. How do I feel this for real? Now what's nonsense? I'm dying to feel a connection. How do I feel it? Right? That's really the question. In other words, it's not coming from a negative place. This is a beautiful question. It's amazing. It's a person who's saying, I want to be connected. I love it. How? Once they say how, what's the answer now? Oh, that's a good question. How do you get connected?
Or like with, okay, yeah, that too, but also with, like, why should I try to believe in Hashem or connect to Hashem if I have no interest because he's so mean to me? Like, I don't know, so many bad things. Like, let's say you believe, let's say you've experienced Hashem in your life all the time, but in negative ways. So like,
Right.
why should I work on?
What do you mean a negative way? Like what?
Bad things happening.
Like what?
And you're suffering. I'm like,
So I've been through pain. How do I?
Yeah, like why am I trying to connect to something that's just hurting me?
We Jews do something that's called daven. When the way we daven is, we don't pray. We are mitpalel. Do you know what the word mitpalel means? It's like saying mevakesh would be mefalel. Mitpalel would be like ani mitbakesh. And if you're following the diktuk, it doesn't make sense. Ani mitpalel, I am becoming a prayer. No, you're not. You're praying. You're asking Hashem. What do you mean you're becoming that? It's because we don't ask Hashem to do things. We bring Hashem into our reality to make him real to us so that we can feel his presence in our lives. And I think that the calling of our generation is the most beautiful calling of all time. It's Achsha Dori B'Tmiya. This is the greatest generation that ever was. It's a generation that's calling, and you're now in the position of being educators of this generation. It's interesting because we're still trying to figure it out ourselves, right? And yet we're like educating others already. But, well, maybe it's time to kind of like realize and bring Hashem down. We know the concept of bringing Hashem down, but have you ever brought Hashem down? We're trained to bring Hashem down. It means make a bracha, drink some seltzer, make a shackle, and you bring Hashem down. But did you ever bring Hashem down? Meaning, were you ever scared and anxious and worried, and then you got unanxious by feeling Hashem's presence? Did you ever try that? You did?
Yeah.
Does it feel good?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I told myself to do it.
The other night, I woke up in the middle of the night with a nightmare. In the middle of the night. Because whatever, I was trying to do something and I was worried, like, how is this going to work? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. And I feel like so lost. And it was the middle of the night. I was tossing and turning in the middle of the night. And then I said to myself, practice what you preach. I was like, Yisrael, betach. It was all in a dream, by the way. Yisrael, betach b'Hashem. What does Alter Rebbe say, betach b'Hashem? Tiach means cement. So what he says is, Yisrael, betach b'Hashem. Rebbe Yid, cement yourself to Hashem, like connect yourself, and dveikus, stick yourself to Hashem. What does that mean? Hashem, I know you got my back. I know you care for me. I feel that you are connected to me. Now, what does that mean? It means, Hashem, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm lost. Hashem, I know you are taking care of me. Note, I'm not saying Hashem, help me. That's called asking Hashem for help. I'm mitpalel. I'm connecting myself. I'm throwing myself at Hashem. Feel you here. I know you're here. And then like a part of you says, how do you know? Tracht gut. That's how. Because I'm thinking that it's good now. And every time a doubt comes into your mind, you work it to feel, oh boy, am I scared right now. Whew. And now what? I know Hashem is with me. You know what happens when you do that? Again and again and again and again and again. And you feel Hashem's just like with you here. You get enmeshed. That's called mitpalel. That's what David HaMelech says, va'ani tefillah. I don't just daven in the morning. I do this all day long. Every time I feel anxiety, va'ani tefillah. I'm like, I'm so scared. Hashem, I know you're with me. And they're like, how do you know? Hashem, I know you're with me. I don't let my Amalek attack me. And I'm doing this again and again and again. You see how I'm bringing Hashem down? Keep doing it. And what happens? His presence becomes yours. and you become his, and you become one with him. The person who's asking the question, how do I know to believe in Hashem, is right. Accept that they are right. How do you know? What she's saying is, like, do you think babies believe in Hashem?
Yeah.
I think that they have like a real, like a real sincerity. It's written all over their face, like so real. It's so emes on a baby. Why? Because they just like, no, I can come, tati, mommy, and just takes care of me. That's what it means, by the way, when Mordechai, he was omen to Hadassah. What did he give her when she was a baby? Emunah, omen. So when someone says, I don't believe in God, obviously our standard answer is, the God that you believe in, nor do I. The God that you don't believe in, nor do I, right? It's true, though, because when you say I don't believe in God, it means, who's God? The big fat fellow in the heaven with a big long beard and taking care of the world and telling me what to do? I don't believe in that God either. What is God? Hashem's presence every moment of your life. Do that, and then you'll sense that I don't believe in God either. I just connect to him. Does that make sense? What was your question about that thing? Your nuance in that question?
Oh, how do I know, like, prove to me that I have a neshama, and why am I here?
Right. Do you see the same answer? Prove to me that I have a neshama. I can't prove it to you. Because you're asking me to prove it to you intellectually. How am I supposed to do that? By definition, a neshama is not intellectual. Prove to me that I have a neshama is, try this out. Try, when you get scared and worried and depressed and down, whatever else you're feeling, feel Hashem's presence in your life. Do it again and again and again. And your neshama is going to come shining out. The difference between a Jew and a Goy, different conversation. Because, lahavdil, but I think Goyim can do this also, to some degree. And there will be a difference between a Jew and a Goy, yes. But first, let's try it out and let's see what the neshama is and what being connected to Hashem means. Right? The point is, in every one of these questions, allow yourself to not see the person as a kofer, but rather as beckoning you to a deeper connection to Hashem and to a deeper connection to Torah and to mitzvahs and to your soul and to Hasidus and everything else. And then maybe I'll respect the person who's asking the question. Maybe if I respect the person who's asking the question, they see that I'm genuinely providing responses and working on it, on myself, then maybe they'll feel it too. Because here's the story. You'll never be able to explain anything to anyone unless it's experiential. I can't explain to you how to feel Hashem's presence in your life when you're anxious. What I could do is express to you what I try to do. And the more I do it and the better I do it, the better you'll get a perception.
It's interesting that you mentioned the connection to feelings like emotion and anxiety. I don't know about you, but I found sometimes that the girls have like a knee-jerk response. Like when we had a speaker last year, we had like a mental health day, so some therapists speaking, and then we had like a rabbi speaking on Hasidus' approach. They have like a knee-jerk response that like, it's not true. It can't be like, what are you telling me that like Tanya or Hasidus could help with like depression and anxiety? Like they're almost like allergic to hearing that Hashem could help them with these negative emotions. You experience that?
That's what's coming up.
You know why that is? That's trauma
nothing-
of the way we were taught.
One of the questions, religious trauma.
If I was taught about Hashem
That's this question.
and I associated with negativity, then I heard about it in a negative way. So that's traumatic to me. Okay, it is. So
I think also sometimes it's presented as like use Tanya instead of therapy as opposed to having marriage with therapy. Like I think that's where it comes from. Like it's more like it's not a replacement. It's like a supplement.
but didn't the Rebbe say that when you, if you need to just take out the sharblat of Tanya, meaning don't say the word Tanya? I teach all the time things from the Rebbe. And I don't ever mention it.
Oh, what do you teach of Rivka?
Hashkafa. No, it's great. It's great. It's your Hashkafa. I'm saying, but you can teach things from the Rebbe, and the person doesn't mind if it's the Rebbe. They just mind if you keep saying that it's the Rebbe because that is traumatic to some people. Okay, so don't say it. Why do you have to say it? Why is it so vital to say that. What?
It's not.
Yeah. So yeah, when you say Tanya is going to be the answer to your question, and then the person thinks to themselves, but the person who actually abused me was a person who officially learned Tanya. So now how are you telling me that I'm going to ever have that? Okay, you're right. So correct. So don't say it. Just say what it says and do it. And then, that's what it means get to know the person you're working with. It's hard work. So it's like a double work, right? Because you like a full-time job to work on yourself and to work on the other person. It's like a whole...
How does that connect to what you said before about when you're okay with yourself, then you'll bring light? But we're talking about Shluchos and how every single person you do work on, every single person, there's very different connection and light that it'll give when you make a relationship with someone than what just being. There is something about just being and people coming to you, but still, it's very different than when you're making a connection.
Well, the way Hashem runs the world is you have to be and then go out and sell your wares.
100%.
And it's amazing. Let me tell you something what's amazing. Where Hashem runs the world, test it out, you'll see that whenever you learn something and then you become that and you figure and you like work on that, or you learn something in Torah, somebody's going to ask you a question that's going to be the answer to that. It's amazing. In other words, you don't need to be perfect. Hashem made the world just incredible. You really don't need to be perfect. You just need to be working. And then you'll see people will gravitate to someone who's working and working on themselves. And the more you work, the more you'll get it. It's not double or nothing.
But it still doesn't. I still am not seeing the connection between this and I know we have to work on ourselves and it's about ourselves, but we're still dealing with a problem that, like a overall problem that we're talking either it as a school as a whole or as grades individually. I just don't see the connection.
Like a connection of what?
Of me working on myself and making sure that I'm like people will gravitate to me. How does that bring Kabbalah soul back to people? How does that bring respect back to people? How does that make it then when
I can't respect you, right? If I see straight through you, if I don't think of you as authentic. The more I see you as authentic and the more you influence me, the more I respect you. Isn't that?
Think about the negative, what the girls, when there's someone that's not a role model, how
that's
they
what I'm
feel
saying.
to them.
So that's exactly my point. Since there's so many, unfortunately, of that style, and the point is, what can, as our group, not just be a patch.
I don't think you need to solve the whole world's problems. The world's problems are solved by one person. And one mitzvah changes the whole world, and one person changes the whole world. So sometimes that itself is the Yetzer Hara. You can't do everything, so don't do anything. Right? I would like to continue this all night. I've got to run to my Shir. But on that, I'll just tell you one little thing. I had once a letter from the rabbi I saw, and it came to me in the right exact moment. Long story, but anyway, there he says, I think that you think that, we were doing matzah campaign, giving out matzahs to people, from people to give out matzahs to non-from people. So this guy told me. So, and I was feeling very down. So the rabbi says in the letter, he says, you know something? When you start to believe that what the Baal Shem Tov said, that when the Neshama comes down to the world for one favor, to one Jew, one time, and for that it's worth coming to 70 years, and the rest is profit. If you actually believe that, your life will be totally different. Because you feel absolutely excited about one interaction with one Jew. And then you do it again and repeat it again and again and again. But I have a hunch that you don't actually believe that. That's what he writes in the letter.
Wow.
And that's why you're getting so depressed and down all the time. Because you think you got to change the whole world. Because if I don't change the whole world, what do I do? You don't need to change the whole world. Or rather, the way you change the whole world is by changing one act, and a second one, and a third one, and a fourth one. And that's by changing yourself. Okay, last question, then we're going to go run tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't mind if you guys stay.
45. So there's
What?
Okay, most of the questions you're asking seems like it's girls who externally are like objecting, right? And like how do we respond to that? But I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on like how to guide someone who is open to it and wants it, because like sometimes I myself I'm not like
isn't it the same way? How do you guide people who want to be
like practically, like not just by being like she wants like guidance, like I wanna. someone who's just like sincere, like I want to do the right thing,
I
want to grow, do whatever. Like
I think the way Hashem designed the world is if I want to get up, you know how I get up? I have to take a hard surface, a resistance, and push against it. And then I can get up. I have to push against something to get up. If you want to become better, you have to find something to push against. So, thankfully, everyone's got something to push against. So you say, what do you want to work on? What do you want to work on? You're amazing. But what do you want to work on? Something, right? And you'll see everyone's got something to work on, everyone, unless you're like a real tzaddik. Most people are not on that level, so we got something to work on. If you find something to work on, you have something to push against. That something becomes how you grow.
I would think about that every single time I get up now.
thank you very
Thank you
All right.
so much.
I'm happy to do this again for some time, but
For opening your home to us. Yes. Thank you. We only saw the bus that we came in. Have you ever seen in the Beis parking lot this